TorahCafé.com.
Why did Jews celebrate Passover?
The Exodus story and the passing over of the houses and all that.
Why they celebrate the Passover?
The Pharaoh did something to the Moses, right?
Isn't it the time where they ask God for forgiveness?
Me Mitzrayim, to remember getting out of Egypt.
Is that when they walked, when the water opened up?
Before Moses led the Jews out of Egypt, they put the blood over the door.
They pass over the, what was that, the Red Sea?
Pesach, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pesach?
At the Seder, we talk about 4 sons. If you remember, there's the wicked son, the wise son, the foolish son, and the son who doesn't know how to ask. So what son would you say you are?
I'm probably the foolish son.
Don't know. Maybe I don't know how to ask. I'm not sure.
I'm probably the foolish son. I think that's pretty easy to answer, actually.
Wicked.
I think I'll take the 5th on that.
The wise one.
Everyone's a little bit of every son within there, to be politically correct.
Wise would be a little bit too much because I don't know about it, but I guess closer to that one.
There's an invisible guest who comes to the Seder table. Do you know who that is?
Who is the invisible guest?
Can you guess?
I know God.
Is it Moses?
Jeremiah? Ezekiel?
I know so much less about this than I actually thought I did.
Haman. Is that right?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go with Elijah.
Elijah.
Eliyahu Hanavi.
Have you ever heard of matzah?
Matzah is bread, I think. Some sort of special bread that they have in Passover.
When they were fleeing and the sea opened up for them, they couldn't stop and have time to make bread with leavening.
It's the unleavened bread, right?
Do you like matzah?
Yeah, but I like it even when it's not Passover.
Yeah, have you ever tasted it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Do you like
not.
it?
It's not the best thing.
Yeah, it's great. I do. I have had matzo ball soup and matzo crackers.
No go. Never had it.
It's not good. It does not taste good just by itself.
It's good for a few days of the year. That's enough, I think.
By itself is pretty bad, but like with some gefilte fish, some horseradish, you add some stuff onto it.
Do you remember any of the 4 questions?
Say, why do we eat matzah? Why do we lean back? Why do we dip twice? Which one did I forget?
Why is this night different from all other nights? Shabachal, Halilot, Anu Achlim, Ein Yoshvin, Ubachol, Mr. Vim. I don't know.
Why do we lean?
Recline, as in lean back.
Yeah.
Oh, why do we eat the bitter herbs?
Do you remember the 4 questions?
Where's Grandpa?
Do you know how many cups of wine that we drink at the Seder table?
Well, if it's my family, it's bottles, but I would say 1.
I wouldn't mind having a few glasses of wine.
I'd say 3.
As many as possible. Like big glasses?
Yeah.
That's
like
crazy. Ooh. That'll knock me out.
I'm gonna go with 12, but I don't know.
That's a lot of cups.
Well, no, not just for one person. I meant like for 4.
Very good.
You guys know how to party.
Each person drinks 4 glasses of wine.
Yep, 4 glasses of wine.
I'd be under the table.
There's lots of types of slavery and there's lots of types of freedom. What do you say? What do you think freedom is? What does freedom mean to you?
Be able to do what I want when I want.
The ability to choose, the ability to make decisions, the ability to act and conduct oneself in the way they choose to. Yes.
Yeah, I guess maybe being able to walk around on the street like this and get interviewed by someone interesting like you and not have police coming, and I don't know, that sounds kind of like freedom.
Freedom to live your life as you choose to and as you want to.
Something that's holding you down. You say, I refuse to lose. So you fight for liberation. You overcome the obstacles, and you're free, physically as well as mentally.
Being able to celebrate Passover openly.
Yes.
wish everyone a happy Passover and healthy dinners and feasts with families and friends. And good luck finding the Afikoman.
Happy Passover.
Happy Passover. Happy Passover next year in Jerusalem.
Egypt has made headlines in recent weeks, and many of us are following developments there to see how the revolution pans out. These are, of course, not the same Egyptians as those associated with the ancient oppressors of the Jews of old. Still, it's hard not to catch the irony, especially around Passover time, a popular uprising in Egypt against an oppressive regime and a brutal dictatorship by people demanding their freedom. Passover, the holiday that celebrates Jewish freedom from oppression, is perhaps the most widely observed holiday on the Jewish calendar. It lasts 8 days and begins with a Seder, an elaborate dinner during which we eat matzah, drink 4 cups of wine, eat bitter herbs, and tell the story of the Jewish people. The plot lines of the Exodus story are familiar. The Jewish people are enslaved in Egypt for 210 years until they are finally miraculously redeemed by God, who leads them out of Egypt to Sinai, where they receive the Torah. The really curious thing about all this is that the Exodus happened more than 3,000 years ago, and yet we celebrate Passover as if it only happened yesterday. We asked Rabbi Manis Friedman, Dean of the Beis Chana Women's Institute in Minnesota and a world-renowned lecturer, to give us the subtext of the story and help us understand why this enthusiasm for Passover. What is it about this holiday that defines the Jewish people?
It's not coming out of slavery. It's that God took us out of slavery. God took us out of Egypt is a whole different experience. And when people say, and then people do say, that Moses was the great liberator, the great champion of human rights and anti-slavery, no, he wasn't. Here he comes to Pharaoh, and he has an opportunity to say something really dramatic. Human dignity, blah, blah, blah. What does he say? He says, we have a holiday, we need to go out into the desert. Is that a cop-out? That's such a disappointment. He doesn't say we work too hard. He didn't say this is against the Geneva Convention. We have a holiday, we got to go. What is that? What about the evils of slavery? Actually, what Moshe said was the perfect answer to slavery. If you don't have a prior commitment, then you might even choose to be a slave. We get enslaved by many things because we're vulnerable. You get hooked on something and you don't want to quit it and you get trapped in it and so on. The real solution to slavery is a human being can't be somebody else's slave because he's already committed to his purpose that God gave him when he created him. So thank you very much. Don't emancipate me. I'm not escaping. I can't be a slave. I have a prior commitment.
Judaism is a tradition of questioning, and the Haggadah from which we read the story at the Seder table is structured around questions. The Haggadah describes 4 types of individuals and teaches us to respond to their questions by listening carefully to what they say.
You have the wise son, the wicked son, the simple son, and the one who doesn't know how to ask. So first of all, if he doesn't know how to ask, why is he included? The Torah says, when your son will ask you, tell him whatever. This one doesn't ask. Why is he included? How is he included? It should be a completely different project. And what does it mean he doesn't know how to ask? What does that mean? I mean he's not intelligent? So say so. The one who doesn't know how to ask makes a very simple mistake. Ma nishtana, translated into English, doesn't mean why is this night different from all other nights. Because the word ma doesn't mean why. The word ma means what. What makes this night different? The one who doesn't know how to ask says why. And that's not a question. That's not how you ask. So he is asking, but he doesn't know how. He's saying, why do we do that? Why do we have to do this? Why? That's not a good question, as we'll soon see. Now, the wise son, also the English is a little tricky. Chacham doesn't mean wise. Chacham means smart. He's a smart kid. He's bright. Wisdom, he's a kid. The wicked son asks a wicked question because he excludes himself. He's the outsider. The simple son asks a simple question. Right? What does the smart son ask? The smart son says, I noticed that there are 3 kinds of mitzvahs here. Some of them make perfect sense, like remember coming out of Egypt, be grateful. Some makes no sense whatsoever. And some are historically significant. Why are there 3 different kinds of mitzvahs? Either God should always make sense, or God should never make sense because he's God. What is with the 3 different kinds of mitzvahs? The wicked son says, what are you taking this so seriously? What's in it for you? And he excludes himself. The simple son says, what is this? Ma zeis. What is this? Now here's an interesting way of looking at it. The simple son is the wise one. And his question is actually the answer to the other 3. The smart son says, why are there 3 kinds of mitzvahs? The simple son says, what's that? What's a mitzvah? Tell me what a mitzvah is and you won't have your question anymore. The wicked son says, what's all this work? What is all this service that you are so committed? The simple son says, what's that? What's service? Do you know what service means? Have you ever served anybody, anytime, and what do you mean, you? You realize what you're saying by excluding yourself? So he's really the wise one, because wisdom is simple. Smart is sophisticated, complex. Truth, wisdom, is always simple. So the simple son simply wisens up the others. That's a very good question, but did you ever stop and ask what a mitzvah is? Did you get down to basics? And even to the one who doesn't know how to ask, the simple son says, what is that? Why? Why what? Do you know what you're talking about? So when you say, why do I have to do this? What is this? If you knew what this was, you wouldn't have your question. So in a sense, the simple son forces us back to basics, truths, unclutter your mind, and stick with what is knowable, doable, practical, and then your questions will fall away. Because wisdom is a better answer than smarts. We're all very smart, and we're all very confused, because we don't know what's what. So the simple son says, what's that? It's like a guy says, how do I become a better husband? What's a husband? If you can't answer that question, you're not going to become a better husband. You're just going to complicate things more. You'll try this, and you'll try that program, and you'll go here, you're just making it worse. You're thrashing around. You're not swimming. So the 4 sons actually represent 4 ways of thinking, and they don't have to be pictured as little kids sitting at the Seder. And of course, there's the 5th son that the Rebbe introduced, the one who says, this is too petty for me. I want to go change the world. And he doesn't come to the Seder. That's because we've like we were saying before, we've misrepresented the whole thing. We haven't shown him the power of it, the beauty of it, the significance of it, and he thinks you're sitting around eating crackers. And he says, there are more important things to do. And of course he's right. And that's why there should be a seat, a chair at the table for him. I mean, the mitzvah is to relate the story of the Exodus to your children. So sit them down and tell them. No, we want them to ask. And there's a very profound and important meaning to that. No answer is useful if it's not in response to a question.
If you've ever made a Seder in your own home or have been to one, you've noticed that it entails astounding attention to detail. Details about the foods we prepared, details about what gets put on the Seder plate, details about what we eat, what we drink, the blessings we recite, the stories we tell, and the order in which all of this is done. But Passover is meant to be a holiday that inspires reflection on the great lofty themes about the relationship between man and God, themes about Jewish identity, human dignity, and freedom. Why then the focus on details?
The word Seder actually means structure, order, sequence. And the important thing, one of the important things at the Seder table is not only the ingredients and the steps and the elements, but the order in which they're. You cover the matzah, you uncover the matzah, you pick up the wine, you put down all with a certain order, and you don't deviate from that order. Which, as you say, seems to be in direct contradiction to freedom. How do we experience freedom or liberation by being so harnessed to details and to the order of the details? God is in the details. Doesn't mean that God belongs in the details, but that if you want to have God in your life, you got to bring him into the details of your life. Otherwise, you're excluding him. You're creating two realities or two gods. But there's another even more interesting thing. God is not only in the details, but also in the order of things. Even the order of events has divine reason, purpose. So when we talk about divine providence, that there is a master plan, we don't mean master plan in the sense that it just deals with big issues and doesn't include the details. Master plan means nothing is left out, even the order in which you do things. So we see, for example, growing up, there are certain things appropriate to a certain age. If you mix up the order, if you're precocious when you're young and you're an idiot when you grow older, it's backwards. The order of things is also important. So real wisdom dictates not only that every detail be significant, that every word be telling, but that even the order of things should be considered. What comes first and what comes second. And in morality, certainly, there's a hierarchy. There's priorities. And if you don't have your priorities right, even if you have all the best moral values, you mess it up. Because first things first. You got to know what comes first, what comes second, what follows logically, and what is inconsistent, and So the Seder is not just details; it's the order of the details, and even that is significant.
At the end of the Passover Seder, after we've had our fill of matzah and wine and read the story of the great Exodus from Egypt, we express the collective hope of the Jewish people in 3 Hebrew words, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. It is a hope that springs from the faith of the Jewish people, faith that sustained them throughout their bitter slavery in Egypt, faith that sustains the Jewish people at every difficult turn in their history, faith articulated in the Hebrew words, Ani Ma'amin, I believe. Here's the Ani Ma'amin, sung by YouTube sensation Troye Sivan, produced exclusively for this Passover webcast.
אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח אני מאמין, ואף על פי שיתמהמה עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא, ואף על פי שיתמהמה עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח אני מאמין, ואף על פי שיתמהמה עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא, ואף על פי שיתמהמה עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא. בכל יום שיבוא.
I'm Bela Olidard for TorahCafé, wishing you all a very happy and healthy Passover. L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem.